We've been hearing from Ukrainians here and also abroad as the country endures Vladimir Putin's invasion. One Kyiv resident is a Southern California native who has fled to Warsaw in Poland.
Joining us live is Director of Fulbright Ukraine and the International Institute of Education's Kyiv office, Dr. Jessica Zahovich. We ran out of time yesterday. We could have talked to you for so much longer, so we really appreciate you coming back today to continue the conversation. Let's talk a little bit more about your experience. Can you talk very specifically about what it was like when you fled Ukraine and how were you able to get out to Poland?
Yes. So the Fulbright program works very closely with the U.S. Embassy and the State Department. So we left on January 27 when the official order to our diplomats in Kyiv, the authorized departure order to evacuate, went out. That meant diplomats had a choice whether to leave or stay. We decided it would be best to bring our 15 American Fulbrighters to Warsaw instead of sending them home to the U.S. to give them a chance to continue the work they've been doing representing our country as scholars. We've been here since that time, working very actively with Polish organizations to gather supplies. Last night, we were packing up boxes of medical supplies, getting them to the border. The evacuation process was a 3-day process. So we had 15 Americans in all different regions of Ukraine, including one in Kharkiv, the eastern city. And we flew everyone out within 3 days. It was very quickly, and we have been graciously welcomed by the Fulbright Poland office since that time.
So you were some of the first to get out. It was probably a little bit more organized and calm. You've seen the panic since, and you've seen how people have gotten out since then. What are you seeing now?
Now we are seeing long columns at the border with wait times of 36 hours to cross, which can be perilous for the elderly and young babies especially. There are shortages of gasoline, and it's cold right now. So waiting 36 hours is not possible outside of a warm car. These are the concerns that activists on both sides of the border are addressing right now.
Is there any sort of plan for the refugees? I know maybe for some of the older folks who have gone through things like communist rule in places like Eastern Europe, maybe they're more familiar with that. But for some of the younger folks, did they ever anticipate that something like this could happen? And is there even a way to plan for what's next?
Yeah, well, the Polish government has been working on plans with the US government for several weeks. And right now, Ukrainians enjoy a visa-free travel regime anywhere in Europe. So technically they are not refugees because they cannot apply for refugee status to countries where they already have visas. However, countries throughout Europe are welcoming them with assistance as resettlement of displaced peoples, which would be a more accurate term. This includes also places to live until they find employment or other ways to help them transport, connect with their families, communicate. And a lot of Ukrainians also, I should say, don't want to leave. They are fighting along with the army, and others cannot leave. So there are 3 categories here: right. Those who can, who cannot, and also the fighters. To the point about, I will continue later, but I just want to say to the point about the memory of what is happening in Kyiv right now. Warsaw in 1944, during the uprising of the Nazi occupation, was a mirror image of what we're seeing right now. So this city is I think one of the most passionate in Europe about helping those who are fleeing the conditions and also those who are fighting.
You talked about some of the people who are staying to fight, willingly. There are also Ukrainian men of military age that are not being allowed to leave the country. We've seen videos of them saying goodbye to their children and their wives, and they don't know how to be a soldier. So these are, civilians being forced to now fight for their country. Is this impacting people that you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow, I have a good friend of mine who hosted me as an American in the Peace Corps in her family. She has a 5-month-old baby, and now I will be hosting her. It's so personal to me, and there are so many stories like that. And I should also say there's empathy because the Russian Russians themselves too are protesting inside Russia. It's difficult for them to do that. Belarus is occupied by Russian tanks, and just a few months ago, Belarusians were protesting that regime. I think a lot of Ukrainians understand this, and the words, the terms they are using for the soldiers also reflect that, calling them invaders, oppressors. It's also true that men of fighting age, not only Ukrainians, some of the Russian soldiers are deserting the army. There's been a lot of reports of even their own sabotage of the Russian effort. I don't think that there's morale in the army under Putin, but there's a lot of morale on the Ukrainian side. So those young men who maybe don't know how to fight, or maybe have been doing some tactical trainings in the past few months, they are definitely in danger, and they need backup and they need supplies.
A follow-up to a question I asked you yesterday morning about the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky. He's being cast, I would say, as a hero, at least here in America. The comment he made yesterday when U.S. forces offered him a ride out, he says, "I don't need a ride, I need more ammunition." So people are describing him as a legend. How would you view President Zelensky? Was he prepared for this? Could you give us a little bit of context as to what he's done leading up to this, and how is he making the grade right now?
Well, I think right now Zelensky has to be fighting in a fighting position. If he evacuates, there's no chance for Ukraine. He has to stay there and fight for his country, and I respect that. I don't think that Zelensky was very popular before any of this started. His popularity ratings were low. The previous presidents under wartime, Yushchenko, had a lot more support. However, I think if we look at Zelensky's preparation also leading up to this point, he was very much quiet. I was in Kyiv until just a couple of weeks before the first bombs dropped, and there were no siren drills. There were no schools closing. The schools closed for the red wave of the lockdown and the pandemic. They did not close a day before the bombs were dropping. And I think that is a tragedy. I think that there is a lot that could have been done just to signal Ukrainians to take things seriously, because he was using the word stay calm, which also I think he was saying it to the embassies, world embassies that were evacuating. You're inciting hysteria, but there's a middle ground between denial and hysteria, and that's just preparation, just common sense even. So I really feel for Ukrainians now who are in this conundrum of should I leave, should I stay? Most folks who are in Kyiv, who are native to Kyiv, they're staying, and in preparing my staff, a lot of them are locals to Kyiv. Some of them are from Western Ukraine as well. We gave them a lot of support and flexibility from our organization on anything they wanted to do weeks ahead, months ahead, and coached them that probably a good decision for personal safety would be to leave, but they chose to stay, and I reserve no judgment for that. It's their country, and if California were under siege, I might stay and fight as well. So it's really a hard ethical paradox right now that people are in. And there are also additional donation groups that are working direct people-to-people assistance. I think that is the best route forward, is to support the people that are there, try to get them out. Time's going by, and it's obvious Putin is targeting infrastructure, and he's doing it in a very brutal way. I don't know how long supplies will hold out. People are worried about food supplies, basic things.
We do want to give that information to our viewers. Thank you again, Dr. Zahovich, for speaking with us, and we'll stay in touch with you. For ways to help, we want to let you know you can help Ukrainians. You can visit amnesty.org for all the sites on your screen there. We will also have a link on our website at ktla.com.